Vivekananda says, "The moment I have realized God sitting in the temple of every human body, the moment I stand in reverence before every human being and see God, that moment I am free from bondage. Everything that binds vanishes, and I am free." So we can see that at the very heart of Vivekananda's message is this idea of Vedanta, this idea of the Upanishads, that the human form itself is the kingdom of God. The human form itself is the shrine of the divine. So Vivekananda was trying to spread a message where there is mutual respect between people, between cultures, between civilizations, between religions. And the only way to truly do this is to get rid of the chauvinism that we are somehow superior to others. And on the other hand, there's no need to feel inferior also. God, the divine, the universal energy exists in the same way within all beings. This is the very basis of Vivekananda's very universalistic message. And this really makes him a person for the whole world. Yes, he is the greatest representative of Hinduism in the modern age. But as importantly, and perhaps more importantly, he is a beacon of light for humanity itself. You see, he existed in an age where the difference between East and West was considered too profound to bridge. Even a person as intelligent as Rudyard Kipling made a rather chauvinistic comment about the white man's burden. He made a rather chauvinistic poem, which is actually good in a literary sense, but very non-universalistic in its approach. East is East and West is West, and never the twain shall meet. But Vivekananda sought to break down this very narrow thinking. He says that all sorts of flowers can bloom in the forest. All sorts of flora and fauna exist within the forest. Why this approach of somebody given precedence over the other, over one religion given a precedence over the other? He sought to appreciate not only the rishis, the munis, the seers of the Upanishads, the drashtas, but also the Buddhas. In fact, he considered Gautam Buddha the greatest living being ever born. It's on record. He appreciated the Tirthankaras. He appreciated Jesus of Nazareth. He appreciated all cultures and understood them deeply. But at the very heart of his message is this, that we are to see the very essence of the divine within human beings, within all beings. Through that, we become less judgmental about others. Through that, we become non-distracted from our own spiritual vision. Forget about physiology, forget about external differences, forget about differences in culture and expression. Mystical expression or spiritual expression is always similar. It echoes. So Vivekananda at this level was trying to imbue a fresh energy into a very backward sort of thinking which was prevalent in the 19th century. The world was on the cusp of great technological leaps. In fact, when Vivekananda went to America, this was precisely what was happening. Great advances in technology, great advances in science, the age of Edison and so on, the age of the light bulb, the incandescent bulb, the age of the telephone, the age of communications, all this was in its infancy. And all this was making very rapid strides. But what was lagging behind was this very universal outlook upon the spiritual parts of man, the very essence of meditativeness, the very essence of calmness, the very essence of getting rid of ideas of conflict between cultures and religions and looking at each other with an eye which is full of maturity, an eye which can represent the wisdom of heart and mind, an eye that can transform our vision of the world from being fragmentary to integrated. And that is the greatest gift of Hinduism. The Hinduism that Vivekananda represented looked at everything as an organic unity, and organic unity is really the key of all of Vedanta, all of the Upanishads. If you can look at life and if you can look at fellow beings with an eye of organic unity, then not only do you feel a great calmness, a great coolness within yourself, but you also move towards a very egalitarian, a very moral, and a very valuable vision of life itself. Coexistence between people happens. Conflict gets dropped. And this is really needed in the world today, in a very divided world, where people feel clear-cut divisions between themselves. This wisdom of the Upanishads, this wisdom of Vedanta, this wisdom of Vivekananda needs to resonate more and more. Yes, as important as it is to recognize our self-nature, that is the message of the Gita, that is the message of the Upanishads, it is also important to recognize the nature of others. And that nature in the Vedantic view is that all beings are part of the same divinity. All beings do represent in miniature that which is the absolute energy of Brahman, that which is the absolute energy of God. Through this very eye of looking, through this very energy of perception, we become creative in our outlook, we become aware, intelligent in our outlook, and we remain full of cheer. You see, why people get hassled about things is that they're constantly creating conflict, not only within their own selves, but in their relationships with others. And that is because we get affected by people's behavior. But the Vedantic view is all these things, the behavior of people, the outer moods and mentality, all that is variable like waves upon the ocean. The abiding truth is the depth of the ocean, and at that level, we are all joined together by this hidden harmony of divineness, by this hidden harmony between ourselves as fellow beings within the cosmos. This idea creates contentment. This idea creates the ability to live with each other in a state of peace. And this message of Hinduism needs to percolate throughout world religion. Yes, inner work, the work you do individually for your own spiritual salvation, moksha, nirvana, etc., is important. But as important is it to recognize the divine nature of others. And this is a reciprocal process. If you cannot recognize divinity within all of existence, within all beings, then you will not be able to recognize the divinity within your own self either. So it is a reciprocal process. It is the key to spiritual health, to mystic health, a sense of well-being within yourself, and the eye that you look at should also be full of this vision. should also be full of this concept of organic unity. Else, we are constantly in a state of conflict. What somebody said, how a community behaves, and so on and so forth, leading to struggle, leading to fight, leading to conflict. The greater truth of Hinduism resonates with the message of Vedanta, and that is one of spontaneous realization of the divinity of all things. One of spontaneous realization that we all belong to the same sky of infinite consciousness. Our identities are only outer. Forget those. It is your inner identity which is important. Knowing this, you create value not only within your own being, but within the world also.